All right, folks, thanks for checking out the video. This is an interesting one. I want to talk today about a survey that I saw recently that said nearly one third of Generation Z favors the government installing surveillance cameras in people's homes. Now, this was a survey conducted on behalf of the Cato Institute, which is a prominent libertarian think tank. So, from the Cato Institute here, it says George Orwell's 1984 is one of our society's most frequently referenced illustrations of what life would be like under an authoritarian government. Actual government policies that are viewed as illiberal in varying degrees are often tied to this novel by opponents, an easy and effective way to call out government overreach and control. In the book 1984, citizens of the fictional nation Oceania are under constant government surveillance, including in their own homes. Devices called telescreens display propaganda and record people's actions, allowing the government to monitor people even in what should be the most private place they know, their homes. This type of behavior is meant to be an extreme example of what can happen when a government gains too much power, and opposition to such surveillance has been assumed to be overwhelming and obvious. But is it? Goes on to say here in a newly released Cato Institute 2023 Central Bank Digital Currency National Survey of 2,000 Americans, we asked respondents whether they favor or oppose the government installing surveillance cameras in every household to reduce domestic violence, abuse, and other illegal activity. Not surprisingly, few Americans, only 14%, support this idea. Three-fourths, 75%, would oppose government surveillance cameras in homes, including 68% who strongly oppose, while 10% don't have an opinion either way. And you can see this pie chart here. It shows 75% oppose, 14% favor, 10% don't know. But it goes on to say here, however, Americans under the age of 30 stand out when it comes to 1984 style in home government surveillance cameras. 3 in 10, 29% of Americans under 30 favor the government installing surveillance cameras in every household. Support declines with age, dropping to 20% among 30 to 44-year-olds and dropping considerably to 6% among those over the age of 45. Now, this seems crazy to me, but I mean, I guess really nothing these days should really surprise any of us. When we live in a world where, I don't know, 30 or 40% of the population thinks a man can become a woman and a woman can become a man. Okay. 30 to 40% of the population think it's okay to have children participating in drag shows. So, I mean, this is just par for the course, right? And we can see here the support by age. Over the age of 45 and up, it's very, very small. 30 to 44 is 20%. 18 to 29 is 29% support for surveillance cameras in people's houses, which is crazy to me. I mean, people don't value their own privacy. I mean, this goes well beyond the vast amount of security or other cameras and facial recognition devices that are in public. This is going into people's own homes. Now, their conclusion here says we don't know how much of this preference for security over privacy or freedom is something unique to this generation or simply the result of youth. However, there is reason to think that part of this is generational. Americans over age 45 have vastly different attitudes on in home surveillance cameras than those who are younger. These Americans were born in or before 1978, thus, the very youngest were at least 11 before the Berlin Wall fell. Being raised during the Cold War amidst regular news reports of the Soviet Union surveilling their own people may have demonstrated to Americans the dangers of giving the government too much power to monitor people. Young people today are less exposed to these types of examples and thus less aware of the dangers of expansive government power. It is also possible that increased support for government surveillance among the young has common roots with what Greg Lukianoff and Jonathan Haidt described in The Coddling of the American Mind. Young people seem more willing to prioritize safety over ensuring robust freedom. And they also go on to break this down by political ideology, education, age, gender, race, so forth. We can see here that blacks at 33% are more likely than people of other races to support this measure. We can see here 17% of Democrats, 14% of independents, and even 11% of Republicans. Who are these Republicans, I wonder? Now, it also goes on to say here that it is important to emphasize that the overwhelming majority of Americans across demographic groups oppose the government surveilling people in their homes. Nevertheless, it is relevant to note the higher acceptance among younger generations to trade freedom and privacy for some added security and protection. If these trends continue, the United States may confront a very different privacy landscape in the future. It is possible that at some point, the American public will be open to extreme government overreach in a world that feels scarier and more dangerous than before, whether or not it is. Thus, it is important to impart the learnings of the past and present about what can happen when government amasses too much power. Without explicitly telling younger generations about the risks and dangers of government surveillance, they will forget these lessons and may find themselves repeating devastating mistakes of the past. Well, that also implies that kids are even being educated these days about government overreach, government abuse. They're taught to trust the government, that the government is their friend. The government can solve all their problems. If only we give the government more money, if only we give the government more power, then we can live in a utopia. And that there aren't any problems that the government just can't solve. That things that are just going to have to be fixed by individual households, individual neighborhoods, individual communities. Now, do people not stop and think, okay, if this did happen, if we woke up tomorrow and every house had cameras in it, how would that work in practicality? Aside from the obvious constitutional abuses that it would violate, but the Constitution doesn't seem to matter much anymore, does it? But how would such a program even work? I mean, who's going to be monitoring these cameras? What are they going to do about it if something does happen? Not much, right? But this is just a very interesting thing. 29% of Generation Z, which right now is people between the ages of 18 and 29, at least in this report. Um, this is also the same group of people that voted 3-1 for Democrats in the last midterm election. These are the people with the least life experience. These are the people who are the most naive politically. And these are the people who are most likely to believe in the globalist World Economic Forum agenda. Now, they don't even know that they're being suckered in to support such things. They think that the things that they support are going to have a positive impact when they're being indoctrinated in schools, in the media, on social media, to support these things, which the very elite, which if you ask them, they would claim to oppose, actually support. So, I mean, what do you all think? Is this? I mean, and again, this is just one. This is just one survey. This isn't necessarily, the end all be all when it comes to this topic, but it is the most comprehensive data that we have on this. The survey was conducted of over 2,000 people, which, when it comes to polling, is a pretty good sample size. So, what do you all think? I mean, is there hope? Is there just going to be more people in 10 years, 20 years who are going to support such a thing? Now, what I would be interested to know is if these same people were asked, well, if a government that you didn't support was in power, would you support that government having this authority? And I think you would get a much different result from that survey. So I just wanted to talk about this. I didn't see very much. I didn't see very much in the news about this, and I think it's important to talk about. So let me know what you all think. And as always, we'll see you on the next one.